زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العظيم.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Murur Safdar, a Human Development Specialist at IDB, and I'm honored to be the Master of Ceremony of today's event. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this side event on digital technologies for sustainable development organized by the Islamic Research and Training Institute in collaboration with the Finance Complex in IDB in the wonderful city of Tunis. In today's world, we are witnessing significant advancements in science, technology, and innovation that are shaping almost every aspect of our life, resulting in significant improvements in providing practical solutions for achieving sustainable development goals. With rise in robotics and automation aided by advances in artificial intelligence, digital technologies have great potentials to transform our world and provide ample opportunities never seen before as we navigate the fourth industrial revolution. This event aims at discussing the prospects of digital technologies in finance, such as fintech, and social sectors, such as lifelong learning, to achieve sustainable development. Following is the program of our event. Today's forum promises to be enlightening and will begin with a welcoming statement by Mr. Khalil Amiri, Secretary of State for Scientific Research in the Government of Tunis, in the Government of Tunisia, followed by a keynote speech by Dr. Hayat Sindi, Senior Advisor to the President of the IDB on Science, Technology, and Innovation. Dr. Hayat will also present the IDB's platform called Engage. After that, we will be having two panel sessions. The first will discuss the role of Islamic finance in providing development solutions using fintech and blockchain technology, while the second panel session will be dedicated to the role of new technologies in transforming knowledge into actionable learning. Before we proceed, we would like to thank the officials of the Government of Tunisia, particularly the Ministry of Development, Investment, and International Cooperation, for their support of today's event. We would also like to express sincere thanks and appreciation to all our panelists and speakers for honoring IDB Group's invitation to share their thoughts and experiences on this very important topic. We will now proceed to the welcoming statement by Mr. Khalil Amiri, Mr. Khalil Amiri is Secretary of State for Scientific Research in the government of Tunisia. He formerly worked as Dean of the Mediterranean Institute of Technology, MedTech, advisor to the Secretary of State for Migrations, and lecturer at Imperial College London. Prior to that, he spent 10 years in various R&D positions within major computing and financial services companies in the USA and UK, including Hewlett-Packard, IBM Laboratories, and Credit Suisse. Mr. Amiri holds a PhD in computer engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in the USA. He is co-founder of the Arab Governance Institute and a member of the Global South think tank coalition. Mr. Khalid, the floor is yours.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Dear Dr. Hayat Sindi, Senior Advisor to the President of IDB, honorable guests and members of the board, ministers, excellencies, colleagues, esteemed guests, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is both an honor and a pleasure for me on behalf of the government to extend a renewed and warm welcome to our international guests. And also it is equally a pleasure to share with you some opening thoughts and remarks at the beginning of this event on digital technologies and for sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, there's an emerging wide consensus that, and this is among leaders in industry, various sectors, government, that digital technologies no longer are a driver of marginal efficiency within organizations. They allow us to do things a little better, but rather enablers of fundamental transformation. This potential for deep transformation is equally applicable to private businesses, small and large, public institutions, small and large, governments, local and central, and to all sectors, in particular, finance and education and learning. For digital technologies open up unparalleled and unprecedented opportunities for value creation and value capture that was not possible before. But at the same time, they do represent major risks and forces of disruption. I probably would summarize the main axis of this transformation, apologizing in advance for oversimplifying. The three axes are: one, integration; two, impact and value creation; and three is intelligence and insight. In terms of integration, clearly, digital technologies allow us to break the silos and barriers within organizations, break the information asymmetry within organizations, and bring together peoples and processes in unprecedented ways, and therefore enable us to have efficient process reorganizations and enhanced capabilities. They also, in addition to integration internally, they allow us to integrate better with our partners, be they suppliers and collaborators, upstream in the value chain, or distributors and end users. And when we're talking about governments and public institutions, this integration also allows us, and we have a different word for it, also inclusion. Allow us to access citizens that are very remote. So integration within and without the organization is the first axis. The second is innovation and impact. Digital technologies allow us to create value and have new value propositions that we could not have before. I need not give examples to this community. As you know, in terms of e-commerce services, examples are abound. I think in my role as scientific research, where our entrepreneurs have difficulty raising funds, crowdfunding, for example, is something that would have been impossible without digital technology. So first is integration, second is impact and new value creation, and the third, once you have better integration internally and with the environment, once you have created value that's basically built on digital technologies. You have a lot of interesting data that before did not exist. And exploiting this data allows you to have competitive insights, predict trends that would have been otherwise impossible. So competitive intelligence, business intelligence is enhanced by the capability of having both unprecedented amounts of data about yourself, your users, your collaborators, your competitors, but at the same time, intelligent algorithms. And these three axes, integration, impact, and intelligent insight, can be driving strategies regardless of the sector. I'll participate in the panel in the afternoon on learning, and I'll probably get a chance, I hope, to share with you that even in learning, there is also applications for having better insight when you collect interesting information and data about your learners and users in open learning environments, especially combined with course organizations and their contexts, to actually have very interesting insights in terms of learning. In terms of the first panel on fintech, and I had a chance to work both in R&D, in technology, and also in the financial industry, in an asset management company and in an investment bank, Credit Suisse. And I was surprised to discover more technology in the financial industry than what I was really using even at IBM and HP. So financial industry has always been reliant on a lot of financial technology. But we're talking recently about an evolution that is very interesting in terms of actually having new offerings and new value and disruptive, really, business models that touch almost all aspects, from payment to investment and asset management, to clearance and settlement of securities, to even foundational aspects of the industry, including some people talking about currency, or even contracts and the way they are managed using blockchain technology. So it's a very interesting afternoon. I look forward to the distinguished panelists and audience. I wish you a fruitful exchange, and I'd like just to leave you with one thing that summarizes probably what we need to do with this major transformations that's going on. I think I realized over a couple of years in government that to reuse the words of a professor of public governance in the University of Leuven, Geert Burkhardt, there is a rapid change in this area in the world. There's a culture of change. The users are adopting technology faster than institutions and companies. And the rate of progress is impressive. This culture of change requires us to have also, as institutions, as leaders, a change in culture. We cannot deal with this new technology using old ideas and old paradigms. We need to embrace innovation. We need to be ourselves capable of adapting to change and using and internalizing these technologies and listening to the youth and innovators, because this change is profound and it calls upon us also to change the way we do business. I wish you a great afternoon and thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Amiri. We will now proceed to the keynote speech delivered by Dr. Hayat Sindi, Senior Advisor to the IDBG President on Science, Technology, and Innovation. Dr. Hayat is a leading biotechnologist and a champion of science and technology in the Middle East. She is the founder and president of the Institute for Imagination and Ingenuity, I2 Institute, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and co-founder and director of Diagnostics for All, a non-profit institution which creates innovative, inexpensive point-of-care diagnostic devices for people in impoverished regions. In 2014, Dr. Hayat Sindi received Clinton Global Citizen Awards, Leadership in Civil Society, for her work to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship among youth in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Hayat Sindi to the stage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Mr. Khalid Amiri, Secretary of Education for Scientific Research in the Government of Tunisia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my honor to address you all this afternoon, and thank you for your invitation. I want to spend 10 to 15 minutes introduce to you the new strategy that the Islamic Development Bank for Science, Technology, and Innovation, and the new STI roadmap, and how digital technology is a key part of that. Before to start to talk about the strategy, here is the main strategy for that. As you know, this is the Sustainable Development Goals. In 2015, United Nations painted a new picture, was illuminated by 2030 agenda. Here, the government acknowledged that science, technology, innovation should be or must be at the heart to accomplish SDG. It's a universal call to end up poverty, to look after our planet, to enjoy peace and prosperity. And this is a great example to unite also the scientist with the policymaker. And here the scientists actually are telling us they want the best technologies, they want the best ideas, and they want the best scientific research to accomplish the SDG. So my question is, what does it take to get the best technologies and the best ideas to accomplish the SDG? This is a real picture of our developing world. The challenges are huge. So what it takes to boost the scientific and innovation research to address the challenges is a good time to be able to accomplish the Sustainable Development Goals. My intuition, of course, it comes from relaxing barriers and boxes and how to look at things in different way. And one concept to do this, of course, as Mr. Amiri mentioned, is innovation, and especially social innovation. Social innovation, I would say, it helped me to see a clear vision of the complex world. Social innovation is about strategies, about ideas that strengthen civil society, which then satisfy social needs such as working conditions, education, community, and health, rather than temporary needs stimulated by today's media. So let us look how can science and innovation link to society. Let's talk about SDG number 1, which is no poverty. So with the innovative ideas, and doesn't have to be huge ideas, a simple technology. Of course, education is a key part to address poverty, but look at the picture on the right-hand side. With a lady paddling on a bicycle, and she's using this innovation to make a juice to sell. And at the same time, she used this machine to sew, to can sell quilt or clothes to earn more money. And this innovation is going by far in a rural area in Africa. No hungers or food security, with providing the farmers with the right seed and with the right seed also for nutrition for animal, the farmer can cope with the many harsh conditions in climate change, drought, flooding, and there will be many food will go around. And health. Maybe the picture on the right-hand side, it doesn't look attractive to us. But it's good enough for the gentleman here to use the hand for his daily function. And a lot of people use their arms and limbs during war, during famine, and killing viruses in the developing world. And also we need low vaccine innovation for children. We need monitor devices to be able to detect women go labor. We lose every year millions of lives, women, mothers, and children. We need digital technology, for example, for portable clinic. and doctor can go and visit, 200, 300 houses in one day, rather than patient to travel 2 weeks to go to any clinic. Education. As Dr. Maamiri mentioned, we need to equip our children, our new generation, with the digital world, with the fourth industry, or maybe now the fifth coming soon. So be able to teach them about the quality of education, so they have the right and equal opportunity when they travel or they move from their villages to cities. They can, equip with the right information and skills to pursue their own university education. Energy, nearly about 1.7, 1.8 billion people are deprived from electricity or connectivity in this world. And now we can use smart technology to produce energy from the wind, from the ocean, from the heat, and sometimes from bacteria. Yes, I met 2 amazing scientists from Harvard. They're using bacteria to increase the electricity by 2 hours in a rural area in a developing world. 2 hours, we take it for granted. 2 hours, it means 2 hours they can operate in a theater to save lives. 2 hours for people to get educated, and 2 hours for maybe mothers need to cook and sell the food. And look at this picture. The living condition is a bit tough for this lady, but even the less, she needed to be connected. She needed to have energy, she needed to have electricity to feel warm, to feel safe, to use it. And now we need new ideas and a new smart startup to make this solar beam cheaper, lighter, and more efficient. Nearly a year ago, I joined IDB, the Islamic Development Bank. And I'm sure all of you are aware, the IDB is one of the largest multilateral development bank, which has been working for over 44 years to improve the lives of the communities. A truly global organization, we bring together 57 member countries across 4 continents, provide development, financing, and technical assistance to 1.6 billion, in line with its overall objective of fostering economic development and social progress. 26 countries from the 57 countries, at least developed countries. I joined IDB as an advisor to His Excellency Dr. Bandar Hajjar for Science, Technology, Innovation, under His Excellency vision to promote human development with clear commitments to alleviating poverty, promoting education, and improving the health and prosperity of those in need. His Excellency asked me to drive a roadmap and how we can integrate the power of innovation, of technology across the whole bank. Where are the gaps? How we can improve our efficiency and our work. And of course, the main focus is harnessing STR for the 17 SDG. The first thing I did is a very crucial, if innovation is a crucial, also policy. Because without the right policy, you cannot implement innovation, you cannot implement the right strategy. So the first thing we did, we conducting a heavy study with UNESCO. It's called GoSpin. It's not in this one. It's called GoSpin. Maybe not, I think maybe it's just maybe in other form. And GoSpin is a first-time institution to carry this study. It's mean Global Observatory Science, Technology, Innovation Policy Instruments. How we can really, after this study, to understand how to drive our STI as a policy in the bank, how we can integrate technology to improve our efficiency, our work, with not longer ATM machine. We need to have the right policy to be sustainable. And also from this study, we'll be able to give our member countries a framework to understand how they create this policy. Because we get a lot of letters asking us how we can, have the right policy to have digital a platform or a school. So there is a policy, how we can make it sustainable. There is policy, what actually the subject you're going to teach, how you're going to get the best teachers, how you're going to, localize this school. So every single thing you need a policy. So we hope with this study, we can provide our member countries with the right framework. Therefore, science will be always alongside with the ID policy in climate change, in water, education, food security and health, indigenous knowledge for solving SDGs. What I love about this is how policy really shine at a light on science and human needs. Now I'm going to talk about something really important to me and to the bank. Last month, we launched a one-of-a-kind digital platform called Engage. We are here bringing together NGOs, policymakers, think tank, inventors, investor governments, universities, individuals, and donors on how we can boost the innovation ecosystem, okay? And we launched that with the partnership with Bloomberg in London and with the Shell Foundation and the UN. And the main function for this Engage platform is the first, as I said, one-of-a-kind, connecting the Islamic and developing world together for three main reasons. The first one is matchmaking. This is crucial because we don't know who's doing what. When I try to find out who are the NGOs actually in developing world are focusing in digital technology, who are the startups, what is the financial mechanism to support the startup, I couldn't find that on the internet. So I had to do a roadshow travel. I went to Malaysia, I went to Indonesia, I went to Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, Turkey, Dubai, London, and I went to Algeria just last week, and I'm here in Tunisia, because I could do that from behind the screen. But it's important very much to be able to know, personally who is there on the ground doing the work, to be able to connect them and link them. And we are really rigorous about who will be joining us, because we need to be also responsible toward our startup. So anybody apply, they go through screening to be able to give them the access to the platform. So matchmaking is a crucial. You wanted to know if there is an investor looking for the right technology, or a startup looking for the right, investor, or research to research. So this is very important to have that through the digital world. The second one, transfer of technology. We cannot invent the wheel all the time. There's so many amazing ideas and brilliant minds who discover something amazing we don't know about. Maybe something is good here in Tunisia will be applied to other area in Asia or Africa. So we need to also have that platform to exchange ideas, to transfer technology and experience. And the most important function of this platform is the call for innovations. Tomorrow, I will talk about that in a minute. So it's call for innovation. We're going to use this platform to be the think tank for ideas across the world to apply to address our challenging problem, and I will talk about that in a minute. Digital technology is crucial, but is part of the whole picture. So even though we're providing our students or our startup with this, also we're providing them digitally with the protection. So we are partnering with WIPO to form IP unit within the bank, and digitally people can apply that and we look through their innovation, because as much as idea is great, they need to be protected. So we're going to provide legal help for startup, for the inventors, IP protection, entrepreneurial skills, because we need to do it digitally, and also commercial help. And we're organizing that. We're partnering with the top universities to provide them digital entrepreneur skills help. Also part of the equation, as Mr. Ameri mentioned, this is also not enough if you don't have a continuous source of funding. So we, tomorrow, and I hope all of you come, we're going to launch physically a multi-million-dollar fund, $500 million fund to look after our startup in the developing world to address the 6 challenges from the developing world. We're interested in food security, health, education, water, energy, and infrastructure industry. So tomorrow will be the day when we open this call for innovation for all the scientists in the world, regardless of their nationality and their religion. They apply, and in one condition, they address the challenges in our developing world for Muslims in our in a non-Muslim country and for our Muslim country. This fund also not just only money, but also going to provide strategic help. It's going to support and generate public good by provide seed money for innovators and startup. It's going to develop commercialization of technology and facilitate through sustained partnership among researchers and entrepreneurs, as well as capacity building. Help the least developed countries to benefit from technological innovations. This will improve quality of life and support to achieve SDG through innovation out of poverty route. Ensure continuity and access to a chain of different sources of fund, because we have angel fund, part of the pot, we have fund of the fund, we have VC fund, and we have capacity building. And finally, assist the member countries to the essential tools to take charge of their own future. I'm glad to say that the bank put 100 million, which is I'm really proud of our board, because they know the importance of this. And also we raised another 100 million from the Solidarity Fund within the bank. So within nearly a month, we raised 200 million. So in conclusion, powered by the Islamic Development Bank, engage and transform will create a global innovation ecosystem for the world's developing communities, closely aligned to UN SDG. I think we at least now started to think differently about science. The realigning is already happening as we get more input from Engage platform, as we plot path to solve the SDG, as we build scientific knowledge bases, as we nurture the science policy interface, but importantly, we still need to build bridges to local knowledge and the community within different fields, bridges that foster unexpected outputs that use resources of the radar. I personally think social innovation, linking science and society, is very powerful. We will move as quickly as possible, achieving the SDG and grand challenges. So back to my question, what does it take to address, to get the best innovation and the best scientific ideas to address the challenges? I think acceptance that science has an amazing track record for creating value, recognition that government funding for long-term scientific project is going to be essential, and engaging private sector to follow development work and link it to commercial work to make a benefit to their community. Overall, with policy science linkage dancing before us, with the amazing connected energy of the stakeholder waking our world, I think our lives can only get more sustainable. Finally, at the Islamic Development Bank, we believe every person has the right to live in dignity and prosperity. We want to give people the tool they need to help themselves, their communities, and their countries, restoring their pride and fulfilling their potential. We believe that by building the right infrastructure, we can enable our member countries to drive their own sustainable economic and social development in the future. So please join us, please engage with Engage, and please apply to our transfer fund, because we cannot do that alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Dr. Hayat, for the interesting presentation. And congratulations on the launch of the Engage platform, and best of luck for the launch tomorrow of the Transform Fund. Distinguished guests, now we will now proceed to the first panel discussion on fintech and Islamic finance. I'm delighted to invite Dr. Dawood Ashraf, Manager of the Research Division at RT, who will be our moderator for the first session. Dr. Dawood, the floor is yours.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yeah, I think that after lunch it is a bit hard to digest a lot of the information, and I know that science and technology definitely doesn't work very well with the full stomach. So hopefully we'll have a lively session. In this session, what we're going to do is we'll talk about the role of fintech for the sustainable development. And with me, I have three great panelists. I will invite Dr. I apologize in advance if I do not pronounce the name correctly. So I invite Dr. Tonk Uyenek. Dr. Tonk Uyenek has been the CEO of the World SME Forum since 2015. Please, Doctor. So I will not read the whole introduction that I have. We know that we are short of time. I, rather than reading this introduction, would prefer to listen to the panelists. So my second panelist is Mr. Matthew Van Nieuwkerk. So Matthew is the CEO and co-founder of Settlement, the company offering a suite of modular middleware solutions. Okay, and my last guest today is Dr. Mahmoud Sami Nabi. Dr. Mahmoud Sami Nabi is the professor of economics and finance, and he is being local, would be able to give us a lot of feedback on what's happening in Tunisia. So without wasting my time, I will just put everybody on questioning. So I know three of you are from different fields. And like looking at what Hayat Sindhi has mentioned and what Dr. Amiri has mentioned, it seems that we are going through some huge changes. Somebody was using the disruptive technology, the other one was using innovate and impact and all those things. So I want to understand, what are the latest trends and opportunities and challenges in fintech and blockchain technology in your specialized area? So I'll take it from the left corner, Mahmoud, and we'll move from. So, Mahmoud.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Dr. Dawood. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be part of this panel. As already emphasized by many speakers, digital technologies are bringing connectivity. Connectivity of governments, connectivity of people, connectivity of businesses. And what is new is that there are interesting features such that to be secure, to be transparent, and to be speed. So these features are bringing to the economy in general and to the financial industry in particular new players, new entrants, what we call the decentralized networks, and also automated processes. So I think that there are new trends. We are observing that the major banks are creating or financing fintech firms. They are partnering with fintech firms. So there is an understanding that we cannot resist to the newcomers. It's better to be part of, to be a game changer and not to suffer from this disruption. So I think we are in an area of fair competition and innovation. So traditional actors who resist to this new dilemma, maybe they will win in the short run, but at the mid-term or long term, they will lose. So it's better to be part of this movement. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for the organization for inviting me to speak today. I can only second the comments made. I think that in our ever-changing world and ever-digitalizing world, collaboration is the new competition. It's those entities and organizations that work together for the common good are the ones that will succeed in the longer term. And I think the technology that my company focuses on is blockchain technologies. And if you can imagine a technology that, and to come to the trends and what technology unleashes, if you can imagine a technology that will allow for and provide for corruption-free electoral systems, if you can imagine a technology that will allow for and create tamper-resistant land titling systems, it will enable us to provide banking services to the unbanked and insurance to the uninsured. So this is a foundational technology that is going to create a lot more utility in society for humanity. And that's the technology that my company focuses on, and bringing solutions that utilize this technology to create, I think that a nice way to look at it is the internet brought us a lot of utility in society. It delivered ways to communicate across borders, across distances. We have things like voice over IP, which enable us to communicate with loved ones around the world. And I think that what blockchain technology provides is actually trust over IP. It's a new technology that will enable decentralized and trustless systems to operate in full confidence. So it's going to revolutionize and disrupt a lot of industries. The organizations that embrace that technology are the ones that will thrive in the longer run.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you. I have been involved in a number of occasions with the Islamic Development Bank when I was in the World Bank. Now I have a different head. I am the chairman of the World SME Forum, which was created during G20 presidency of Turkey. In fact, my friend, the Undersecretary of Turkish Treasury at that time, Ibrahim Bey, was very instrumental in making it happen. We are a non-for-profit organization, and our aim is to support the growth and strengthening of the SMEs globally. Now, SMEs and SME finance, of course, is a big issue because SMEs face three main problems. One of them is finance, second is access to markets, and then the third one is access to skills. But when it comes to finance, especially after the crisis in 2008, SMEs have been facing even more difficulties in accessing to finance. Reasons for that are very well known to everybody. One of them is, of course, the issue related to collateral and equity requirements, and many of the SMEs do not have that. Secondly, it is related to the financial statements, the accuracy of the financial statements, and they cannot also provide that. And then another one is the issues related to the cost of transactions. A loan to an SME is almost close to the cost of a loan to a large enterprise, so banks prefer to go for those bigger enterprises. And there are other reasons, but these are the main problems that they face. Of course, the introduction of digital, introduction of fintech and blockchain technologies have been a breakthrough for SMEs as well, because what happens is that through using the technologies, the big data, etc., the banks or the financial institutions are able to now process loans very quickly. They use information that they gather from the digital fora, and they use it for making decisions. So it makes a lot of easier for SMEs to process loans and also to borrow from financial institutions. I'll talk about the issues afterwards, but this is it's a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. Matthew, I was wondering, I know that you have partnered with IRTI in developing something called social cryptocurrency. So help us understand how this will help to enhance the social inclusion.
Yeah, thank you very much. The project that we have been working together with IRTI together with our partners Ation from Saudi Arabia. The product is essentially a product that will allow for the distribution of subsidies to the parts of society where it's needed the most. So what we've created is a let's say a parallel or concurrent type of a currency, and internally we call the project the Social Cryptocurrency Initiative. And what this delivers through mobile technologies, the ability for funds actually to make it directly to where it's needed most in society. Now, there are some attributes when we use the word cryptocurrency that might raise some eyebrows and some concerns with in the banking community. But important to note that this type of the application, in fact, is programmed so that the tokens that are issued through it are non-fungible, and also that they're pegged one-to-one with the domestic currency. So what that means is that there's no possibility for recipients of a subsidy token to use that or to sell that on an external exchange. And in fact, what we've created a rather closed-loop system with this application, where the issuing body in a few clicks can issue subsidies directly to the wallets, the mobile wallets of recipients. And this is essentially programmable cash. You can define the purpose for it. For example, if I want to issue a healthcare subsidy, I can program that token so that it is not spendable at anything but a pharmacy, for example. Or if it's an early education subsidy, it's only spendable at educational facilities. Now, when the merchant receives that token from the recipient who's purchased something, that is then collected by the merchant, and that can be redeemed then for tax purposes, for example. So you create a nice circular system and a closed loop system that controls, number one, that the tokens in it cannot be fluctuate in value. It's linked one-to-one by making it non-fungible. And secondly, that it's pegged one-to-one with the domestic currency. And of course, an important element with this is to have a very thorough economic analysis of what is the underproduction within an economy, what are the unemployment rates, what are the underemployment rates, and to ensure that the number of tokens that are issued as a subsidy do not create an inflationary environment, rather they create an environment where the full capacity of the economy is utilized.
Interesting. It's very interesting. When we see the use of technology the way it is right now, like you want to ensure where the money should reach. So cryptocurrency or the blockchain technology, I would not use the word cryptocurrency because it just creates so much havoc, and we all have seen, especially the first quarter of this 2018. So I'm not going to go that route, but definitely I can see there is a lot of value for enhancing social inclusion. I ask Mahmoud, in your opinion, like look at the fintech and all the blockchain technology, how do you see the Islamic finance, since our objective is more towards Islamic finance, can use this technology to meet the developmental challenges that we are facing in this world now?
Indeed, I think that the new digital channels and the blockchain technology, or the DLT in general, may contribute to unlock the potential of Islamic finance. Because personally, I think that Islamic finance has not benefit from its huge potential, namely all the profit and loss sharing contracts or the philanthropy potential, because let's recall that Islamic finance has three main features, which are the following: the connection to the real economy, to be ethical, so we have to promote social solidarity through the main philanthropic channels, and also to promote inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is it's a global challenge, because now the traditional finance, it is clear that it's not sufficient, because as previously said, micro and SMEs need specific loans, small loans, which are not beneficial to traditional banks. SMEs need equity financing. And we know, I personally published a paper in economic modeling showing that equity financing could reduce inequality because it is against the concentration of wealth. And even if we are looking to the quantitative easing after the financial crisis, even Stiglitz criticized the quantitative easing because it benefited who have already access to finance. So in the case of Tunisia, for example, I suggested targeted quantitative easing. And what is possible with technology is to target who need social transfers, who need specific lines of finance, who need to be encouraged to promote their ideas and their initiatives. So I think we have to bridge the links between the potential of Islamic finance and what is now possible with the digital technologies. Specifically, even the traditional Islamic banks could be winners, because as this morning it was discussed that there is a problem with the transaction costs. What makes the service of Islamic banks costly is that because there are many stages in the financial channels. There is the Sharia compliancy, there is the verification of the ownership of the assets, there is what is also the cost of registering, etc. So with smart contracts, for example, which are automated process, it is possible to reduce costs for the Islamic banking industry. Another issue which is very important in Islamic finance, which is specific to this industry, is the reputation risk. The reputation risk is it this product really Islamic? Is it really Sharia compliant? Because as you know, there are some products which are very criticized, such as tawarruq, for example, when you have just an asset to back a financial operation, but the asset can maybe still in this place for 2-3 years because it is just a genuine or a trick to make the financial operation. So with the digital technologies, it is possible, in my opinion, to verify the true spirit of Islamic finance to target people. If, for example, I take another example, which is the donation-based crowdfunding. The donation-based crowdfunding, for example, if it is coupled with the development strategy of a government, and not to make it just isolate from the development strategy of the government, we are talking about poverty reduction. If the government, with the civil society, with the private sector, with private providers, you know, in Brazil, for example, some social transfers of the government are channeled by the private sector, not by government agencies. I think there are many tools, and we have to encourage, as I said initially, we have to encourage fair competition. Because among the risks is that in these new digital channels, we will have few providers of service who will concentrate on the data, who will have such a monopoly power, a new type of monopoly power. But we are in the area, in a time where we have to encourage fair competition and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tonk, Dr. Tonj. Okay. Now, what I'm seeing is that both Matthew and Mahmoud are talking about the transformation and innovation. But when I think about a micro, small, medium enterprise who is engaged in production of goods and all those things, maybe least bothered with adopting a technology, say, for example, the e-commerce. And now we see that with all these blockchain technology, these smart tech contracts and all those smart things. So help us understand how the advancement of fintech will be helpful to the micro, small, medium enterprises, or you think that it will increase another layer of challenges for them that they already have?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm happy to see another advocate of SMEs in the panel, so it's a good thing. Look, it's obvious that digital economy at large, and of course fintech and everything is a byproduct of it, is very useful and brings a lot of solutions. Crowdfunding, as well as you said, on the Islamic finance side, it's not only donation-based, but also equity-based, revenue-based crowdfunding can easily be adapted to Islamic finance. So there's a lot of room for using digital technologies and fintech and etc. For supporting the SMEs. And as I mentioned, it already helps a lot in putting together more pragmatic solutions to find access to finance. But not only that, also access to markets and also access to skills. However, the problem is this. How many SMEs in the world have access to digital economy? When you look at the numbers, what you see is that in developed countries, they are benefiting, their SMEs are benefiting a lot from the digital economy and its products. But when you look at, even in developed countries, their developing regions, as well as in developing countries, there are many issues in terms of SMEs understanding and access to digital economy. And this creates a big gap between the SMEs who benefit from this magnificent tool, and they become more and more powerful, productive, etc. But on the other side, a big chunk of SMEs in these parts of the world are lagging behind, and the gap is expanding. My concern is that this gap will lead to more inequality and less inclusiveness, unfortunately. And that would make things more difficult, both economically and socially. For example, I was speaking in one event in North Carolina this year. They invited us to talk about a number of issues, including digital economy and its benefits, etc. I was very surprised to see that the rural enterprises, rural SMEs in the US are having same problems. They have problems with, even there, in terms of the physical, the macro side of the story, physical access. You know, they don't have the access to internet. And when you look at Africa, it is even worse, because I was in East African Business Council meetings in Tanzania, and they were saying that, look, 90% of some of the rural population do not have access. So in urban areas, yes, it is accessible, but in rural areas, in many countries, you don't have access. So that is part of the broader macro issue. Then when you come to the level of the enterprises, there are also issues related to awareness. Even if the internet is available, they don't know what it offers to them. So you need to increase the awareness, and that's an offline issue, but it has to happen. Then there are issues about the ability, even if they know it's good, something good there, but how do I access to that? You know, those are the issues that I think we need to tackle if we really want to make a more inclusive and more just world. So good innovation, everything is fine and dandy, but we need to focus more on developing nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tunç. Indeed, a very insightful comment. We all are pumped up with this technology, but definitely we have to look at the disruptive side of it as well. So thank you very much for that. I'm just like, I know that we are running out of time. So just wondering, like, what one recommendation, what one item that you want every one of us to take home today that, okay, so I have attended this session and this is something that I should embrace regarding the fintech. So I'll start with Mahmoud.
Thank you very much. I think that the first thing is to encourage the government of the IDB member countries to develop the right ecosystem in terms of legal and regulatory environment, in terms of capacity building, and in terms of institutions, in order, as noted by the World Development Report, the digital dividends we have to catalyze these digital dividends. In the financial arena, I would suggest the creation of central bank cryptocurrency. Central bank cryptocurrency is very important because it will channel all the innovation towards the development goals of the government. Each country has its specific development agenda. Maybe first of all, youth unemployment, which is huge in our countries, poverty reduction, extreme poverty reduction, access to housing, access to water, access to energy. We have many development issues as mentioned already. So I think it is important as today, I am happy that our colleagues from IDB, because I was former economist of the IDB in 2014, we suggested the creation of a cryptocurrency or a payment system at the regional level in order to facilitate trade and investment among the countries of the IDB. A platform that could be accessed by the central banks in order to facilitate the exchange of trade, investment, and also to reduce the exposure to foreign exchange and to alleviate the constraint of the foreign reserves. So I think that having cryptocurrency by the central bank, because it will remove the other risks of the virtual currencies, and also to encourage connectivity through a regional payment system, which is already the case in some countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand are now working on such a platform to encourage SME financing, for example. So I think it is time to move, not to be reluctant, and to have a multi-stakeholders approach, which is very important. Thank you.
I'm very happy to hear that that was a recommendation from 2014, because that's essentially what the product that we've been working with IRTI on has created. And I'd be very happy. My one recommendation for everyone in this room, please visit me afterwards and I'll give you a demo of what the possibility of this technology is. I can demo it for you immediately. If that would be interesting to you, please see me afterwards. I think that the other thing for me that's really important to take away is in a time of technological change, one of the key things that will help us to proceed in the right direction with it is education. And so I think that looking at the educational systems we have and the curriculums we have, it's only like the blockchain technologies have been around essentially since 2008, 2009. And it's only today, this year, that they're starting to find their way into higher education curriculums, which is a bit of a time lag. And if you look at other technologies that are coming out and will be shaping forces for the years to come, I think it's important that we have a duty to the next generations and to our children to install proper education about cutting edge technologies and make access to this technology widespread for the future generations.
We need to, first of all, focus on SME growth and development for a more inclusive, more equal world. Secondly, we need to also make sure that this gap that I was mentioning between developing and developed countries, so therefore there's a lot of work to do, especially for MDBs, to support this kind of initiatives. So I hope that we can achieve that. Otherwise, what we are talking about is of course a big disruption for the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We still have a few minutes. We can take like 3 questions. So if anybody has questions from the audience for any of our speakers, please just raise your hand and we'll try to. Okay. There's no question, so I believe that we have passed on the message very well. So thank you very much, everybody, and hope to see you again. There will be a new panel discussion right after this one. We talked about the finance side, and the new panel discussion would be more on the education side. So we're trying to match how the technology can help to further the cause of the education. So thank you very much. So I invite. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention. We will now proceed to the second panel session on open learning. I'm delighted to invite Dr. Rami Abdelkafi, the acting manager of the training division in RT at IDB, who will be the moderator of our session. Dr. Rami, the floor is yours.
After a very good session on fintech and Islamic finance, the second session of the event will be dedicated to open learning and its impact on capacity development and on the capacity of developing countries to develop their capacities and to benefit from new technologies in learning and education. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased today to have a panel of 3 high-level speakers. The first speaker is Madame Margot Brown from the World Bank. So please welcome Madame Margot Brown. My second speaker is Dr. Rami Ahmed. He is the Special Envoy on SDGs and Special Advisor to the President of the IDB. And our third speaker is Dr. Khalil Amri, the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Education in Tunisia. Thank you very much, our panelists. So let me start by a very general question regarding the knowledge management. Let me start by Madame Margot Brown from the World Bank. So thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting our invitation or for traveling on the way from Washington to here. So, Madame Margot Brown, we understand that in the World Bank you have a strategy for knowledge management. Could you please tell us more about this strategy, this initiative, and how this initiative is different from the past? What's new in your new strategy of knowledge management in the World Bank?
This one. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I'm very, very pleased to have the opportunity to share with you our experiences at the bank. The journey that we've been on for the last year and a half is not really a new journey for the bank. I think, like many venerable institutions, the bank is a prolific creator of knowledge, generator of knowledge. But what it maybe has not spent as much time paying attention to is how it manages that knowledge. Manages it in such a way that staff can put their hands on what they need when they need it in order to further a project, an initiative, and ultimately to impact development. And so the journey that we've been on is to essentially redefine how we do that at the bank. It has been a collaborative effort across the organization. The most, I think, important aspect of it was to really sit down and define for the bank, what does good knowledge management look like? What does it feel like? I come from a professional services background from the private sector, and we approach knowledge management in a different way. So we are incorporating some of that into the approach at the bank. The response and the reaction has been, this is different, and we think we like it. So we've got some very positive developments going forward. Yes, and so we're making progress. Let me put it that way.
So I'm sure that the World Bank is putting the SDGs among its top priorities. So let's link these knowledge management issues to the SDGs. My question goes to Dr. Rami Ahmed. Dr. Rami, could you please tell us how, to what extent you consider that knowledge management, open learning, and if we focus please on the SDG 4, which is related to education, to what extent you consider that open learning is very essential for the achievement of this SDG 4?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. Actually, I'd like to start from where my colleague just ended. I like the word progress. I think this is a good start. If knowledge management is really resulting in any progress, then it's really something exciting. Otherwise, it's going to be something of a luxury. Creating knowledge, but not being able to use it to induce progress and development, it's basically a loss of resources. And historically speaking, I think knowledge management is the key in the accumulated experiences of the development community over the past 70 years or so. If you go back to the MDGs, not the SDGs, basically it was because it was realized that some of the development gains were reversed by other issues. So they came up with these MDGs in the year 2000. And then because of the knowledge management, basically, they figured out this wasn't sufficient. 2015, and after 7 million consultations, 2 years of work, the international community basically came up with the SDGs. And the SDGs basically was because of the results of the knowledge management to try to fix the loops. And it's an adaptive work. The SDGs now covers the social, the economic, the environmental, and the political to a certain extent when you think of SDG 16, for example, because many of the development gains were reversed because of conflicts. If you don't have peace, much of the work that we do in fragile countries were basically reversed. So, and the lessons learned basically from the MDGs, take China, for example, taking 800 million people out of poverty. How did it happen? What lessons we can learn? What knowledge management can tell us about this? People are celebrating, the world is celebrating that the poverty rate in the world is less than 10%. Well, we need to have a closer look at this. It's because of China, 800 million. India, 250 million people out of poverty. That's great, but this should not conceal the fact that in sub-Saharan Africa, the absolute number of poor has risen. Basically from around 220 million to almost 400 million people in 2015. So what knowledge management basically has done is to repeatedly and in adaptive fashion continue to frame the international global agenda for development. So now we have the SDGs in general, the economic, social, environmental aspects, and you can see that whatever knowledge management is bringing into focus. Now on the second part of your question on the SDG 4 in particular because of education. SDG 4 calls for ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. If you unpack this SDG 4, basically each one of these components, you can see where technology comes in, and in particular open learning. Take inclusive. Can you reach the rural areas with the technologies that we have today? Take equitable. Not only women, people with disabilities, people who cannot really come to traditional schooling. So you can talk about using technology to address the keyword equitable. You talk about quality. Quality also, what type of teaching you can offer in a rural area versus bringing the best from whatever to that rural area. So the quality itself is being served by the digital technologies. And finally, the lifelong learning. It's no longer about getting a degree. We need to talk about skilling, upskilling, reskilling, lifelong. So how can you do this? People cannot go every 5 years to a university and get a degree. So without the open learning, really we have no chance of achieving SDG 4. And maybe I'll elaborate on this later on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Rabi. This is very interesting, and you have highlighted a very important thing in your answer, the fact that the progress of country is very different from one country to another. Let's look at the specific context of Tunisia. So my question goes to Dr. Khalil Amiri. So if we talk about the context of Tunisia, how do you consider that new technologies, the availability of knowledge, the open learning, etc., is considered as an opportunity for Tunisia, or can we consider it instead as a challenge for a country like Tunisia?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the invitation to this very interesting panel. I think I'd like to build up on what Mr. Ahmed was just saying, which is, SDG 4. I mean, Tunisia, relatively in the region, has scored well because of significant investment in education, in science and technology and innovation capacities. We are very highly ranked, regionally and continentally in terms of scientific research, in terms of education. But actually, these capacities in terms of education, science and technology we're discovering are not very much aligned with economic growth opportunities and developmental challenges. When we look at the details, we find that for a graduate to actually have a successful startup in a particular field or to respond to the needs of the socio-economic environment, we see gaps. And I think this is where technologies can actually help a lot, because for us, number one, they can help us with adapting and complementing formal education. So we have a graduate who's out. They cannot go back, like you said, to university again. But technologies, open learning platforms, blended, I would say, because I think there needs to be also a lot of effort in actually designing these offerings in terms of assessment, in terms of needs, in terms of... but I think they give us the ability to continuously train and fill in the gaps so that we improve quality. So number one, we could improve quality after a graduate is out. Second thing, we could also, using these technologies, of course, it's not straightforward, but if properly done, we could help reskill. I mean, studies show that in 10 years, 50% of the jobs will be different, or 70% of the skills of the jobs will not be probably jobs we know today. I recall what Richard Riley, Secretary of Education in the Clinton administration, said in a conference to secondary, I think, school teachers. He told them we're training students, future university graduates, for jobs that do not yet exist using technology. Using technologies. They will be using technologies that have not been yet invented to work on problems we don't know are problems yet. So, there is a focus on transferable skills on adaptation. Open learning platforms can allow us to adapt and to reskill and to provide this goal in the SDGs of lifelong learning. But there is something else that is quite interesting, which is today, if we want to improve and enhance quality of education in the 3 levels, it is extremely expensive. Sometimes you need to reskill teachers, and these are tens of thousands of teachers. It's not something that is easily done, especially in environments where maybe labor laws are not very flexible. And it's always very complex to do. Now, technology gives you an ability to complement the gaps of even the resources you have, which you cannot instantaneously reskill and retool and redeploy. So they also help accelerate the reforms in terms of the quality of education, because you don't have to go through recruitment, retraining, and sending teachers to regions and internal areas. You could actually complement existing educational courses with additional courses that either basically improve quality or actually add in terms of skills that are not available in certain regions or for human resources. So there are catalysts, we see them, of reform of the system. You could reform it much more quickly than if you went through recruitment of human resources and reskilling. And finally, they, just like I said in the opening remarks, they actually provide us with data that is extremely interesting that was not available before. When we have online courses, we can collect interesting information about learners, their contexts, their, in terms of assessing them continuously, whether actually the course is working or not quite well. And there's a new research field called learning analytics that actually is quite exciting, because some of the results are quite interesting. Because now you have information about, when you tie it back with the course, what's happening in various contexts, identifying at-risk students, adapting the theory versus practice, because you could have, I'll give a simple example. You could, in a normal lecture or in a normal course, you're giving your course with very little feedback during the course, and sometimes the lecture, and sometimes the semester. Especially in where we don't have a lot of feedback, and there are a lot of countries where you don't have, student evaluations and so on. But in online systems, you could have actually the ability to ask a question before a demonstration and after a demonstration and see, did actually that demonstration, did it pass the message or not? And you could try something else, another example or another technique or another pedagogical innovation, and actually ask again to assess whether actually the concept, the message got across or not. So this kind of information, when it builds up, and when you have information about context and backgrounds of students and learners, can actually allow us to improve the quality of our educational offerings, whether they lifelong or formal, that in a way that was not possible before. So I think there is new value in terms of intelligence that was not, and insights that was not available before. But there's the two axes I talked about in my opening remark still exist: integration and inclusion. We can reach areas and users that were not reachable before, and also we can offer new value that didn't exist before. So I think it opens tremendous opportunities to conclude for our country and for many, I think, developing and middle-income countries and all developing countries. But I think my experience and maybe my insight is that this does not happen spontaneously. It's not a website and a MOOC that actually will achieve this. There's a lot of work, and I hope the World Bank and the Islamic Development Bank and the IRTI help us actually build up the capacities, because it's not very easy to have a properly designed, intelligent course that actually uses this data and complements and assesses first the gaps and creates. We're using the technology so far. We have an open university, Université Virtuelle. We have a new project that's starting, which is the digital school for primary and secondary education. But to be frank, these are initiatives that actually achieve maybe inclusion and access. But in terms of actually new educational offerings or new intelligence, that actually requires capacities and knowledge management capabilities and actually partnerships that probably are not easily available to one country. And that's why we look at our partners maybe to help us with centers of development and excellence that actually help us deliver on the promises of this technology.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. So based on that, this experience of Tunisia, let me go to Dr. Margot Brown. Starting from this experience of Tunisia, you as an expert in knowledge management, how do you consider that developing countries, including Tunisia, should rethink their way to collect knowledge, to share it, to store it, etc.? What kind of, let's say, advice can you give to developing countries to benefit at the maximum from this available knowledge, from these new technologies?
Well, I'll pick on something that our colleague just said. It is deliberate. The interesting thing about knowledge management is that it is a defined management discipline with individuals who are educated and have credentials in the area. But it has to be systematic, it has to be deliberate, it has to be considered at the outset of any program, any initiative, the same way that we look at how we're going to evaluate a program as to whether or not it's successful. We spend a lot of time looking at monitoring and evaluation, but not as much time looking at how do we ensure that we are capturing what is coming out of our work in a systematic way. We're identifying what is working, what is not working, so that we stop making the same mistakes over and over again. That we identify the gaps and then we proactively go out and fill those knowledge gaps. So the advice I would provide is to think about this at the strategic level. What do you want to achieve? Where do you want this to take you? And actually invest in individuals who know what they're doing, who have the background and who have the experience to be able to basically fold this into all of your programs, initiatives, and national approach. That would be the guidance.
Thank you very much. And Madame Brown, we know that you have this open learning campus in the World Bank. So it is addressed to all member countries, all developing countries, etc. Can you please elaborate more on the role of your open learning campus in offering this knowledge to the developing countries to help them assimilate this knowledge, please?
Absolutely. So we define knowledge management in a sort of a broad, eclectic way at the bank. It includes learning, so the Open Learning Campus sits within knowledge management, as does geospatial, big data, text and data analytics, South-South. So as I said, it's an eclectic group of capabilities. The Open Learning Campus was the result of significant desire from our client countries to have one place where they could go to access, cutting-edge development knowledge. It's also, though, the bank's own learning platform. So we use it internally as well, which I think is good, because the product, the system improves because we're using it ourselves, and so that we want to make sure that our clients are having a fantastic experience as well. The Open Learning Campus is, I would say, a constant work in progress. We are improving it, evolving it every day. We have 3 different pillars for the Open Learning Campus. One is our talks, so sort of TED Talk, gaming, using interesting, short, digestible ways for people to learn about something. We have our academy, which is much more in-depth. This is where we have MOOCs, where we have either facilitated or self-paced learning for fair lengths of time. I mean, the MOOCs, though, when you think about the reach, our digital development MOOC, we were reaching tens of thousands of people, and it's completely open to everyone. So, if I can leave any message with the group here today, please use this resource. We actually have organizations and institutions that are folding our course material into their offerings. So make use of it. It's great content. And then the third pillar is around connections. So after you've taken the course, after you've learned about climate change for your particular city, then you can connect to other individuals who are also working in solving some of these challenges. So those are the three pillars. But as I said, the Open Learning Campus is, we consider it to be the jewel in the crown, and one of the bank's most greatest assets. We work very actively to make sure that in our operations, in our projects, we are capturing what is coming out of those projects and folding that into the learning, so that practitioners are really getting what is coming out of our projects in the courses that they are taking.
Thank you very much. So let me go to Dr. Rami. As you know, based on this experience of the World Bank, also in the IDB, we have developed, in the Islamic Research and Training Institute, we have developed our online courses in Islamic finance, etc. So open learning gives the opportunity to reach the maximum number of people. However, if we look at the SDG 4 related to education, how can we make sure that how can we measure the impact on the quality of education? So we can reach the maximum of people, but the impact on the quality is yet to be determined.
Yes, well, first of all, congratulations on the Open Learning Campus. This is great. And congratulations, Erti, on the Islamic Finance MOOCs. I hope it gets even bigger. On quality, I'd like to share an experience that we have done about 15, 16 years ago, and the results were published in the MISQ in 2001, I guess. And you can keep in mind the time lag, even with the technologies of 15 years ago. We taught 200 students, 100 students in traditional classrooms, and 100 students on virtual learning. And by the way, we had a great debate on virtual learning, or is it real learning in a virtual environment? That's the topic here. But after a semester-long comparison between the two groups, and we measured satisfaction, self-efficacy, and effectiveness. If effectiveness is any indicator to the quality of the delivery of the content. It will boil down to the content and the delivery. The teachers in one point will come in the design of these use. And not surprisingly, the quality was the same. Same people got the same scores in both environments, whether it's the virtual environment or the traditional environment. So they basically were getting the same effectiveness, no statistically significant difference between the two groups. But on self-efficacy, the students learning in a virtual environment were more confident about what they have learned, because they learned at their own pace, they were controlling. If they needed to repeat something, if you are in the classroom and you missed it and the teacher just did it, you cannot just stop him every time, but you can stop the video and go back and really make sure that you master that particular skill. So there is an advantage vis-a-vis the self-efficacy. The surprising result of this research was the satisfaction. We found that the students learning in a traditional environment were more satisfied than the students learning in a virtual environment. And this was a surprise. We thought everybody would be excited about the internet, even though at the time there was no broadband and the video streaming was slow and all of this. But it turned out to be, and this is back to the SDG 4, the lifelong learning thing, the subjects were 18, 19 years old students. They come to class because of the social element also. They like to come to the university, so they smile at people. People will smile at them. They feel they went to the university. What we did with these students, we told them the first week, go home, we'll see you at the end of the semester. Go and learn on the computer. This was done in Louisiana State University, by the way. So the satisfaction for this group of people was not there. And the reason, because of a different objective. They're not coming only to class for the knowledge. There is a social experience that is associated with college. But if it was a housewife that cannot really leave the house, she would have enjoyed such a course from her home. If it was a person with a disability, for example, who cannot really come to the class, would have learned and would have benefited from such a delivery. If it was somebody who can't come to the class because of age, people who are working, they like to take these courses at night. And now they need to reskill and upskill and all of these things. So the satisfaction would have been different. But back to the quality, I think it will boil down to the design and the teachers. When you say teachers, how much time you spend on teaching the teachers or training the trainers. Even if it was on vocational training. Now, instead of designing or preparing the teachers, you can get the best teachers from the best universities in your classroom. So this is a quantum leap, basically, in raising the teaching capability. And by way of quality, I could get a professor at Harvard teaching class, say, in a rural area, without sending these students to these schools. for whatever reason. But back to IDB, and we commend you and ERTI to do these MOOCs, but also we have a program, with very interesting program. Think of the Syrian refugees, for example, on the Turkish border or in Lebanon. The bank now is spending like $7 million in developing these curriculums. So these students in whatever refugee camps, they can really tap into the learning mechanism. They have the same curriculum. They can try to bridge the gap that they went through the unfortunate circumstances. This is just one example of using open learning for a real-life development problem. You have 5-6 million refugees all over the place, but particularly you have the Syrian curriculum for these refugees in Turkey and Lebanon, for example. So this is a practical use of this. In Africa, we have the bilingual program. So now also to reach rural areas with their mobile phone, they can get into the access into the same, and I understand my colleagues in the education department are also working on developing curriculum for people with special needs, handicapped people who really cannot come to the class. So the open learning really provides real solutions for real problems that we are facing as a development institutions day in, day out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Rami. I think Dr. Khalil also shares with you the same thoughts about this aspect of quality of education. This morning we had the discussion, Dr. Khalil, and there is another aspect for a country like Tunisia after the education. This transition from the university to the labor market is very interesting for a country suffering from high unemployment rate. So how open learning can be one of the solutions that you can offer to the new diploma, etc., to have this transition from the university to the labor market.
Thank you, Dr. Rami. I think, indeed, I mean, what is, being shared, I think, by the various distinguished panelists is that this technology opens up opportunities, but it's not a solution to everything.
Right.
We don't, students, there is still value, of course, from students coming to universities and learning other things. So it has to be clear what you want from this technology. Because what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. You have to manage it if you know the objectives and the desired outcomes, and then you use it as a tool to actually fulfill these objectives. So for us, I think, given that there is clearly a mismatch between what the labor market is asking for and what the university system is producing, for various reasons. There was a big increase in terms of number of students, from 60,000 in 1990 to 180,000 in the year 2000, and then now 250. So this evolution and larger access that was given to society came with, of course, some issues in terms of really managing this process. Are we really training them for the exact requirements of what the labor market is asking for? And now there's clearly, an awareness of this mismatch. In terms of cost, in terms of quality, in terms of effectiveness, open learning and digital technologies in general, I'd like to use the word blended, because I think the issue is a little bit complex. You need to identify what are the gaps and what are the desired learning outcomes. You need to blend it not in terms of presence, class-based versus online. You need to blend it in terms of even policy. You need to bring people from outside the training kind of system, university or vocational training systems, meaning you need to integrate also the socioeconomic environment in terms of the co-construction of some of these units. So it's blended in terms, not only in terms of delivery, in terms of even, how you deal with this process. And I think it opens up an opportunity, but this opportunity, I just wanted to stress that it's not spontaneously available. This work of identifying gaps, of assessing students and their capabilities, especially after a period from leaving, getting their diploma. It's different than when they took their exams. So it needs to be in the context of a well thought out process so that actually this technology can deliver what it promises to deliver. And generally, I think what we'll come up to is this convergence between higher education and training institutions evolving and open learning platforms evolving. Because today, actually, information is available, and teachers in universities, professors are realizing that actually, if they just spell out information that is available, it's not going to be a lot of value, and students are not going to be very interested or engaged. So we're talking about inverted classrooms, where actually they access online courses and information and come to the university to ask questions, to do projects, to work together. So I think we need to evolve traditional education and also open learning and online education towards this blended learning model where you need both, but at the same time, you need to manage it well in terms of expectation, exact definition of learning outcomes, assessment of gaps. So it's an entire system, it's not a technology. And like Mrs. Brown said, basically you need experts in this area. So if you want to actually use this technology and actually use it strategically to solve this problem of mismatch, you need to have the right experts and capabilities and leaders to actually implement that. Because the opportunity is there, but I think it's not straightforward, is my insight, I think.
So, based on that, Dr. Khalil, since we have two experts from two international organizations, we have the World Bank, we have the IDB, what are your expectations with regards to the role of these international organizations to help a country like Tunisia to go forward in this strategy of developing open learning and this blended learning?
I hope, we will look for partnerships and technical assistance. There's, I think, a gap in this region for a center of excellence in these technologies. They will change fundamentally education, traditional education in universities, and also complementary and lifelong learning, and even inclusive learning throughout even reaching third generation citizens for development. And I think this is not a straightforward task, and I think there are capabilities that needs to be developed regionally in terms of, because they call for both technologies in terms of IT, ICT, technical capabilities, but also a wide range of other educational sciences, cognitive sciences, social sciences, to be able actually to have all the capabilities as a country to deliver the promises of this technology. So, it's something that I'm just going to throw here, on exactly for what is maybe available within the World Bank and IDB to help build up regional capacities in terms of taking advantage of this opportunity, which requires a complex set of capabilities that are not yet, the soft infrastructure of learning, meaning, how these skills and these centers that actually would allow us to build offerings that actually fulfill the desired objectives, which are already hard to assess. So they need to start from assessing gaps and desired outcomes to actually putting them together, to delivering them, to evaluating them continuously. Is there kind of a potential for expanding, this learning campus with maybe regional, capabilities that would actually help countries and societies in taking advantage of this opportunity that is opened by the digital technology?
World Bank, Madame Bronze, you can give us some thoughts on that.
One of the things I think myself at the bank, I've only been there for a year and a half, so I'm still learning about it. But one of the things I think we've realized is the bank and no single institution is going to be able to do all of this itself. Like the challenges are just enormous. And so it's working with partners where I think we will start to make the inroads in some of these challenges. The bank has, in the learning side, very strong relationships with organizations like MIT and Stanford and the Korean Development Institute, the Chinese Academy for Governance. So these are just some of the organizations across the globe that we work with. And so I think it's by leveraging capabilities to use the phrase that we see on the crowding in private finance side. It's the cascading of that, because as I said, one institution is certainly not going to be able to do it itself. The other aspect I would say is in the capacity building. This is an area that the bank invests a lot of time and effort in working with member countries to develop capacity in many areas. In the knowledge management area, working with countries to give them the capability to institute their own programs so that they can actually capture what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and so on. So I think those are the two areas that really we need to move forward on in a much more significant way.
Thank you. Maybe we can give the last word to Dr. Rami for giving some thoughts on the role of ISDB in this context.
Yeah, I just want to share something, intrigued by the issue of their building the capacity, in capacity building. There's a professor at Harvard, Lant Pritchett. He said, if you see a very nice plant and you chop it and you take it to another country or another place and you plant it, you think it's going to be with the same beauty? It's not going to be the same. And the reason is, what we MDBs, at least historically, been guilty of, finding a good solution for a good community or a good country, and then feeling very proud that we can take it and dump it on you here, dump it on you there, and think that we are doing the right thing for our member countries with all the good intentions. But I think we need to realize that the local capacity in identifying the problems to begin with and identifying the solutions is very crucial. And if we are to help really in building the capacity, is really in helping these communities really with the skills to identify the issues, rather than tell them, okay, this is a design, just go and have it. I like your point on the blending. I think I'm going to use it if it's not copyrighted. I'm going to use it from now on. So the blending is very, very crucial. You cannot simply just say we throw an open learning course at people and we finish it. So I think the local capacity building is very crucial. We historically build the schools, training centers, buildings, equipment, and we move away. And many of the MDBs are guilty of that, with all the good intentions. But we're realizing that more and more, without the softer components of the learning, it's not sustainable. It's a waste of efforts. It's a waste of development efforts. It's a waste of development resources also. And just a few months in some of the countries that had the uprising 2011 and beyond, we were talking as MDBs about all the good things that we have done for the education and for all of this, just to discover that the graduates are not really matched with the job market. I mean, I'm not gonna reveal a secret. When I was a director of operation in a country X, under my watch, we approved 6 projects for higher education, for example. We were very politically correct in building a school in every city, a university actually, just to graduate sophisticated unemployed people, where the employment rate in that particular country was 43%. And instead of going and doing vocational training, for example, bringing the technologies and making sure that we are matching the needs of the market with the skills that we are building. What we resort to, and this is what I would like to conclude with, is the issue of scholarships and sending people overseas. And it's part of the SDG 4, by the way. It calls for increasing substantially the number of scholarships to, especially in least developed countries. I hope we take a second here, because it's a sword of two edges, as we say in Arabic. Sayf du haddain. Because what happens is we send our best kids, maybe to the best schools, and I guess somebody was saying they don't come back, or they come back with a different way. They don't really understand the problems that they have here. And it's not only the top universities and maybe the college people, even skilled people. And then this issue, and this is what I would like to put on the floor here, the brain drain issue is very real. And we're talking about open learning. Can open learning really solve this problem or help in solving this problem? Instead of sending 18 years old to universities, and by the way, the States made the best out of this after World War II, when they brought people from Europe. And most of these people, they ended up basically settling in the US. And this was a smart move. These people contributed to the development of that nation. And it's a good business, by the way, if you get some international organizations to pay for it, because we pay for scholarships. We provided over 15,000 scholarships for these people to go to developed countries. So I think we need to start thinking of the open learning models to at least blended again, I like your word here, but maybe at least we send people the sophisticated specializations later, instead of sending hundreds of thousands, in some countries hundreds of thousands, paid by their governments basically to go and get basic college education somewhere else. Perhaps we could blend our universities in these countries with the best education possible from the West into yeah, and it's not only the formal education, the skills. Statistics has it that most of the LDCs, they have about 7.5% of their skilled laborers that they train in their countries migrating. 7.5. And out of these people migrating, you have about a third of them, 30%, who are skilled people. So you train them, you pay to skill the person, and then 7.5% of these people that you sponsor, they basically, they disappear. And so I think back to the subject of this open learning, with the right design, with the right blending, and I think with the content that we could utilize from all over the world, but it has to be seen with the local eyes on design, on delivery, but I think it will provide a huge opportunity for our member countries to really deal with the matching issues, to deal with building the local capacity, and this will open up a lot of opportunities.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ami. I think this is the best conclusion that we can have in this panel discussion. Maybe let's see if we have one or two questions from the audience or any additional comments. Please, yes. If you can, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Rida Mahshoub. I am the president of the African Economic Chamber in Tunis. My question is for both of you, Mrs. Brown and Mr. Ahmed. No, ça marche pas?
Si, si.
Hello? Oui. Okay. Knowledge management is a fascinating subject. I have seen that you're coming from the private sector and moving to the World Bank with your specific knowledge of knowledge management. KM is a very important subject for the public sector. Unfortunately, this has always been the weak point into many public sectors all over the world. I will talk about my country, Tunisia, since we have a politician in the room and who is in charge of the IT. And recently, there's this decision to go into the digitalization program, which we are very much welcoming. But that's not enough if there's not real willing to share information. You're moving from the private sector where the sharing information is vital. And if you don't share information, the company for which you are working would not have been survived. You move to the World Bank. It's a big organization with offices all over the world. How did you live this experience? What are the main obstacles? And was the problem really technological or is it something else? Because when we try to study the KM subject and we try to help some of the Tunisian administration, especially for the export promotion, where we are starting to every day to learn from scratch, because every time we're changing a general manager, then we have to start from scratch. With all the team leaves, same with ministries. Ministers leave and new teams comes and we start from scratch every time. If we had a sustainable KM strategy and a tool and a philosophy, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I would like really to take your experience, both Mrs. Brown and Mr. Ahmed, on this. Thank you.
Did you want to take a few or no?
Yeah, is there any other questions? So we take all the questions and then... Please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Omar Gizeni. So I'm working in the blockchain and cryptocurrency field. It's not directly related to this field, but I'm a fan of any technology, actually, that would help the development of this country. So, Mr. Rami, I love the metaphor you used of the plant and the fact of losing its beauty by taking it from a place to another. And from what I understood, from what Ms. Brown said, is that the World Bank could, of course, help the country, but we have to understand what we want before making them help us. So local capacities are crucial, of course. I wanted to know from Dr. Khalil what maybe the country is doing to foster the development of open learning in Tunisia, and maybe can you make us know a bit more what projects are in process right now, like to make it develop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe we can stop with these two questions, please.
Yeah, coming from the private sector, the World Bank is, it's a little different. I've worked before in the public sector, so really the drivers are different. When you think about companies, though, that I worked in, KPMG, PwC, and even some of our competitors, BCG, and so on, these organizations have been more consciously managing their knowledge as an asset for the last 20 years. And so on the public sector, my sense is that there is a lot of knowledge sharing in a very collegial way, but it's not as purposeful as it is in the private sector. So for instance, KPMG in Canada, in our tax practice, if someone was on the partner track and they were doing the interviews in order to move that candidacy forward, they would be looking formally at what that person's contributions were to the body of knowledge in tax. And so that culture then has sprung up. And so that leads me then into the challenges around culture and incentives in organizations to essentially change behavior. So much of the work that is done in knowledge management is actually very close to psychology and understanding what motivates people. So one little interesting story I'll tell you. One of the things that we've introduced for our task teams is something called a pre-designed knowledge package. So when task team leader requests what is called an activation initiation summary in our system, that team receives a package. Using our text and data analytics capabilities, we look at the project description in a very detailed algorithmic sort of way. And that task team will receive the 3 projects that most closely resemble that project. We go out to the other multilateral development banks. We pull the 3 projects that they have done. We pull all of the analytical reports, just the top 3. We work at the library. We pull the external sources. We've developed a new algorithm that looks at people. We don't go into the system where it's kind of self-reporting. We actually go into SAP and who has actually worked in that area, in that region. But what I want to share with you is once our task team leaders understood that if they write a really accurate, thorough description of their project, they get a better package. So we've had actually task teams coming back saying, can we rewrite that? Because we can do a better job. So the lesson is, if they get something that they feel of value, they will put the time in. So those are just some of the things that you sort of learn as you go. The technology is important because bad technology is a barrier to actually dealing with some of the other challenges that you have. A lot of times the technology can sometimes be the easiest piece to deal with. Not if you're a legacy organization and you've got a lot of legacy technology that you have to integrate. But it's the culture and it's the incentives that are really the challenging components, not surprisingly.
Okay, maybe Dr. Amidi, same question was addressed to you.
Okay, I will take it from here. I will add to everything that you just mentioned, especially the culture. I will stretch it a little bit, if you allow me, with your permission. I think it has to do with the institutionalizing of knowledge. Politicians come and go, with all due respect. But the point is, are we building institutional capacity in whatever, regardless of who comes on board? Or do they take this knowledge with them and then we have to reinvent the wheel every time? And this is why sometimes if you look at the rhetoric of some of the political programs for reforms, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, different parties sometimes, you will see a common thread. And the natural question would be, why didn't we capture all these failures in the past? Why we are not building on what we have learned year in, year out, or government in, government out, and so on. So I think culture, yes. In addition to that, also the institutionalizing of knowledge. It should be part of each ministry, each department, that this capacity, or for the country, it's not for these people who are coming in or leaving in next term or something like this. And I would say this is only logical, but is there a political will to do this all the time in all the ministries? That's an open question. I gave you the ball, I guess.
You gave me a question I have to respond to, so I'll have to respond to your question, the question of Mr. Mahjoub. I think Tunisia is consolidating a political transition and institutions and so on. And that takes effort and energy, and engaging the economic and governance reforms in parallel is a challenge, so I have to admit. That's why probably things have not progressed. I think it's not a question of political will. I'm going to give my personal insight, having spent a lot of time in the private sector and moved to the public sector, and I tried, at least within the administration under my purview, to implement NPM, new public management, evaluation, accountability, agencies, PPPs. This is my, and I run against this challenge that Mr. Mahjoub has eloquently stated and you have described, which is that, it's still not sufficiently institutionalized, it's the person. I think this is a symptom of something else that we need to reform, which is that the evaluation of our public sector officials and servants needs to be clear, written, documented, and formal. When one of your objectives is to work with departments, when your contribution and your evaluation is based on the value added with respect to the stated objectives, then you do not look for information ownership as a way to have power and position. That's what it is. If you own information, if you know a lot in an administration, then you are powerful, then you are consulted, then you are. And this does not encourage information sharing and a knowledge management system. I think in order to, that's human. And I've seen it even abroad. There's a level of this politics in every organization, public or private,
is power.
even when I was in the West. I think the starting point is to have and accelerate the reforms, the public sector reforms that have to come from, that are centered around accountability and evaluation with respect to objectives. And one of the objectives, in fact, could be fluid information sharing. But once you evaluate administration, agencies, and leaders within the administration with respect to stated objectives, then they will not look for other ways, because if it does not contribute to that objective, it doesn't help. That actually you have knowledge or you have information that you did not share. In fact, it starts to count against you. And I worked in investment banks where we were evaluated specifically on the ability to help, even outside our responsibilities, other departments achieve their objectives. So this stated so clearly. So I think the issue is about a system of evaluation of the public administration, which probably you know the context. Once we achieve that, I think we will be able to more effectively progress along the axis of a knowledge management system. I tried to introduce it, but you get a lot of resistance, and the progress is slow because the problem is elsewhere, which is if you were to have an accountable administration in terms of documented stated objectives with 6-month evaluations, then the problem, I think, will relatively disappear. This, to respond quickly, because probably we're out of time, to Mr. Omar, because he asked also a series of interesting questions. So just in a telegrammatic kind of a response. Number one, I think in order to adapt our training, education, and higher education system to the needs of the environment, we need to speak the same language and know the gap. Everyone says mismatch, but we don't know exactly what's the mismatch. We need a national qualification framework, référentiel des métiers. We should have done it a long time ago, but at least now it's in some sectors it's almost completed. The Ministry of Employment with the Ministry of is working on this. I think this is fundamental. We need to speak the same language so that we know what the gaps are. That becomes an input to universities and training systems, so who need to train with respect to achieving these learning outcomes with respect to that qualification framework. This also we're not doing because we do not measure the outcomes and the process of higher education, because evaluation is relatively weak, and evaluation is a big component of quality assurance and accreditation. So we're working on reinforcing the capabilities of the National Agency for Quality Assurance and Accreditation, and we're providing funds from World Bank, we thank, for actually providing funds for our universities to get accredited. And that in parallel with the NQF. And just to conclude, there's another project also to introduce digital technologies and the digital transformation of universities, which has started. And I hope that it will be also an opportunity for local startups in educational technologies to also create value, because I'm sure if we create local champions, they could be regional champions, because the same problems we're dealing with in terms of digital transformation of universities, learning analytics, and the governance of higher education is probably, if we build some companies that specialize in this, they could provide a lot of services and have many interesting perspectives regionally and continentally, maybe internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. So I would like to reiterate my thanks to Dr. Margot Brown, Director of Global Themes Knowledge Management at the World Bank, Dr. Rami Ahmed, Special Envoy on SDGs from the IDB, and Dr. Khalil Amiri from the Ministry of Education, Secretary of State of the Ministry of Education, Tunisia. Thank you very much.